Welcome to the Rebirth podcast. My name is Caitlin Hill. I've been on a massive journey of self-discovery since becoming a mom. I'm curious to find out how we can be the best version of ourselves as women and mothers, and how that has a ripple effect on the rest of the world. I am so honored to have you listening here today. Please take a deep breath and welcome to the space. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Rebirth podcast. I'm so happy to have you here today. Today is actually mine and Matisse's anniversary. So he's taken the girls out this morning and we're going to be doing something fun this afternoon together. Just the two of us. We're actually going to be going shopping for clothes because him and I are always buying and thinking of what the girls need in their closets. And we literally haven't gone shopping for clothing. Matisse, some of his best shirts he wears every day have holes in them, and he hasn't bought anything new for himself in like 7 years. So this is us doing just kind of like, I'm sure like if you don't have kids that it's very normal to go shopping for clothes, but we're like, let's go do this thing together that we really need to do because you do end up just thinking about the girls, what they need. Like I'm always thinking, okay, what do I need to sign them up for? What do I need to buy for them? But oh my God, like one of them doesn't have like a sweater to wear when it's like 12 degrees outside. Like I need to get another sweater for them. And for me, I'm like, okay, like I've been wearing the same thing for like, I literally actually have like a maternity shirt that I wore when I was pregnant with the twins that I still wear on a day-to-day basis. And like the fabric, you can actually, it's starting to like become translucent because I've worn it so many times. So the other day I was like, okay, I feel like I can finally retire this shirt and put it away. And I don't have to keep on wearing this. Like, I know it's really comfortable, but like, I feel like I can just get like a new camisole that I can wear under my clothes. So that's what we're going to do today. I just need like basic things. So does he. Like I just need classic pieces that I can mix with several different outfits. And it doesn't need to be anything like too crazy. But anyways, that's what we're doing for our anniversary this afternoon. And it should be fun. I mean, we used to go shopping together all the time and pick outfits and stuff. And it was always like a fun thing that we did. And we haven't done that for ages. So anyways, that'll be super fun. I'm looking forward to that. I asked on my Instagram a couple weeks ago if anyone had any questions that they wanted me to answer. And I got some really, really great responses that I'm excited to go into more detail with. So I'm going to start reading these questions. The first question is, how did you let go and break the cycle of not listening to your body and moving into flow? I love this question so much. And, I feel like I touched on this a little bit in my last YouTube video about being on the birth control pill. I do think that there was something about the pill that was blocking me from allowing me to listen to my inner voice and my deeper wisdom. And I don't know if it was actually the pill itself, or maybe was this kind of mindset around not actually taking responsibility and listening to my own body. That was more of a choice. I don't know. But I do think that those two things there was a correlation for me there. And when I went off of the birth control pill, I went into this huge awakening within myself that allowed me to really consciously become aware of what it was that I was putting in and on my body and what I was consuming on a day-to-day basis, whether that be, from the media or from even just the people and books and things that I chose to bring into my life. I became very, very consciously aware of. So I think that had a lot to do with breaking the cycle of becoming more real with myself. I think there's a lot of distractions out there that can take us away especially as women, as men, for men as well, absolutely, but especially as women, there's so much noise out there. There's so many voices. There's so much unsolicited advice, and not even advice, I would say. I'd say it's more like just messaging that's constantly being thrown at us, that it's really hard to know what is our voice and what is our truth, or what's something that's been told to us. I really strive to look back at from being when I was a child and really looking at what is truly me and what was told to me about how I am, or what is true, what is real for me. And I think that's a lot of the time it's easy to just go through life and get into like sort of the matrix of doing what everybody else is doing or thinking things in a certain way, rather than stopping and being like, wait, is that for me? And I found that the more that I allowed myself to tap into that inner voice and that inner Google, as I like to call it, within myself, the more that I continued to trust and listen to that voice rather than going along with other narratives that weren't for me, the more that I was able to get into the flow of what was for me. And I think it's a practice. I think we're all born with this ability to be intuitive and to listen to our own inner guidance. We all have it. But from all of the societal conditioning, whether it's from our parents or from school or just from like being in this current society with all of the social media and television and billboards, I mean, it's everywhere. It's really hard to know, like, what is my truth? What is for me? And the more you can just strip that away and really continue to just come back to what your truth is, the more it's going to show up for you and the more you can get into the flow of that. And now I can identify when something I know is for me and when my intuition is speaking to me and it's like telling me something. And sometimes I choose to ignore it because I know maybe it's not the time for me to act on it in that moment. But I acknowledge that it's there. And eventually it comes around to the point where I have to jump on it and listen to it, because I find that it shows up as a whisper and it can end with like it's basically screaming at me. So just paying more attention to that, really tuning into, like I said, it's always going to be there. So it's like sometimes it's like, it's one thing to like listen to it and it's another thing to act on it. And when you start to listen to it and act on it, I think that's when it starts to present itself in a really natural way. And so continuing to practice that, like it's a muscle, you're exercising this part of yourself that you are wanting to listen to. And even like with the girls, they don't need to be taught this. They already know it. But I'm consciously aware of explaining to them, like, how does something make you feel? Like, what does your body need in this moment? Paying attention to those little things, like what messages is your body sending you? Like, is it telling you that it doesn't like something? Does it feel uncomfortable? Does this light you up? Like, and if something does, like, follow that feeling, continue on with that feeling. And I don't know, I feel like at this point I'm so in tune with it that it's almost like I'm in this dance with being in the flow of knowing what is meant for me or not. And it's a really amazing place to be in. And it's just like going through the work of releasing what's not for you and really looking at that and trusting. Like the more that you trust in yourself and your body and your mind and your spirit and your soul and your intuition and all these things, the more the universe will present you with opportunities to follow that guidance. And it's like that's how you are showing the universe that you are accepting what it's offering you, is to just accept that you're blessed and to, sometimes I don't get the messages for certain things and maybe it's just not time for me to receive it. But I do programming a lot of nights if I remember before I fall asleep, where I just ask myself, like, if I have a question, I'll say, please give me the answer for this. Just show me, whatever the thing is that I'm asking. And it will present itself in the next day in some type of way or form. But you have to, when you're asking for the signs, you have to also take the signs and you have to act on it and listen to it. Don't ask for the signs and ignore it. And yeah, I think that's pretty much listening to your body, moving to flow. Yeah, the more you trust in your body and your body's ability to do things, the more you will get into the flow of knowing and trusting and allowing and letting the process of it take over. And it's just, again, it's like anything. It's just like exercising a muscle that needs to be exercised because it's something that we're not taught, or at least it's not something that we necessarily need to be taught, because I believe that we're born with it, but it's something that's not nurtured in our current society. So we have to learn how to re-nurture that. And that's why I think of it as a remembrance, as a remembering, because it's just there. It's just a part of you. It's not something outside of you. It's the inner work. It's the inner knowing that's there for you. And once you can really get into that, that's when you'll get into the flow. When you are in alignment with that, you will be in that flow state of allowing things to happen that are meant for you. Okay, next question. My twins are 18 months old. They're fighting for the toy. One girl is pushing the other. Any suggestions? Yeah, this is definitely a tough one. I'm in it right now, so I completely understand, how hard it is and to know like what to do in those moments. At this point, I think the most important thing is, like, Matisse and I are really coming back to boundaries, in terms of like what that means for us, because I think it's really easy in this whole gentle parenting world, or even conscious parenting, to just like let your kids do whatever, and to not have the strong boundaries for it is I think where things can kind of go off the rails. It's important for kids to know that they're secure within the boundaries of the container that they're in, of the parents. And so I do think it's important for the parents to step in when this type of situation happens. Like if your kids are, twins are fighting over a toy, there's a lot of that, like I used to think we could just buy one thing for all three kids, and it's just, it does end up getting fought over. If there's one thing, it's often like, I had this and it's mine. And what I really try to do is stop. I get down on their level. I'll often say, I see we're having a problem here. Let's stop and think of a solution for the problem. And I understand, like you're saying, that your twins are 18 months old, so it's hard for them to really understand like working through and understanding how to find a solution for a problem. But I think it's good to start talking about that and bringing that up, because it's still like planting the seeds within them that when there is a problem that they're looking for the solution of it. So yeah, I just say, we're having a problem. Let's think of a solution for the problem together. Maybe one of you can have the toy for 3 minutes, and then you pass it on to your sister and they can have the toy for 3 minutes, and we can go forward from there. And, I have my older daughter, Safia, who she's fully consciously aware of this. So she helps me come up with the problem solving together. We come up with creative ways, like, oh, maybe the one kid that's going to be holding the toy has to share a story for, a minute while they're holding it. And so then they pass it on to the next twin and they have to share a story. Whatever the creative, solution is to the problem, can present itself. So it can always look different, but definitely like figuring out, okay, how can we work together here to make this work? I see that there is an issue, and let's try to figure this out together. And so we do that. And I find that usually like whatever the problem is usually gone and not an issue within like 3 to 5 minutes. It's usually like passed on and they're on to doing something else. But I do notice that it's just bringing that awareness around like, okay, this is a thing that we have. Let's have each person have a turn with it. And then everyone's, having the opportunity to play with it. And yeah, I don't know. That's what's worked for us. Also, I never try to single out one child as to being like the bad kid. Like, I'm not like, oh, like even if one of them does do something like push or pull or take something from someone else, I never single out that one kid and say, you can't do that, you can't do this, blah, 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 blah. It's always a collective thing where I get everyone involved and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? We don't do that. We don't hit. We don't, take things from other people. Let's come together and figure out how we can work on this together. But I would never like single out one kid and try to make them feel bad, because I think that can become sort of the identity for the child of like, oh, I'm the bad one, or I'm being bad in this moment. So not doing that, but making it like, okay, let's work together and figure this out is very beneficial. And what else? Yeah, I think just like working together as a team. And I try not to go into like, let's share this, because it's like, I think it's too far for them to understand, because they're like, well, I don't want to share this in this moment, So if everyone's getting a turn, then it kind of feels like you're not really sharing it, because you're just having your own turn with it and then passing it on. So that's what's worked for us. Like I said, we're still growing and evolving and changing and learning too. So this is what's working for us in this moment. And I do see progress with it when we do use that. So I think that it's a really great way to help them. Okay, so next question. How did you learn EC? Okay, so EC is Elimination Communication, which is taking the opportunity to, no, not so much that. So elimination communication is acting on your child's signals of when they have to use the potty and giving them the opportunity to use the potty or the toilet, whatever you want to do it on. And I learned it from, honestly, it was just from a podcast. I actually initially heard about it from someone on a podcast and I was like, what? They don't use diapers? Like, what? How does that work? But it was like instantly went into my consciousness of it was something that I knew that I wanted to try with my kids. But that was before I found out I was having twins. And then I was like, can I still do it with twins? And yes, you very much can still do it with twins. And But yeah, I learned how to do it from a podcast, and I really didn't go super deep into it to even finding out that much about it. It was like really like I found out kind of the basics of it, and then I just learned how to do the rest of it myself. Because it really did feel like I was just remembering something that I already knew. And it felt very natural and normal to me to do it. Like, your kids give you the signs. Like that was basically all I learned was the kids give you the signs and you give the opportunity for them to do it. Like that was about it. And so yeah, I mean, I basically just learned it from partially the basics of it was from, and my understanding of it was from a podcast, but then the rest of it, like the doing it in the day to day, was all from just doing what worked for us. And yeah, it's just like an evolution, like with anything, it always like evolved and changed. We really didn't stress out too much about it. I know, like, I think if we'd had one kid that I was doing it with, I might have been more vigilant with it. But even still, like, I don't want to bring stress into anything that I do with my parenting. So it really was just based off of like tapping into their how they were feeling. And just knowing, like, I just knew, like, it was like a spidey sense. I could get like goosebumps just thinking about how I knew when they had to go to the bathroom because they would just become very quiet or something would shift. I could notice like the play would stop. It's hard to describe. I mean, it's really, I guess, less about like learning how to do it and more about just learning how to tap into your kids and what your kids' needs are, because it helped me on so many different levels. And there isn't like necessarily a formula for elimination communication. So and every child is so different. Like I've heard that sometimes it can be different from even having a boy or a girl. So it's really about tuning into your kids, what your kids' needs are, and doing what works for your family. That really is what EC is. But it really resonated with me right when the first time I ever heard it. So if it is something that's resonating with you, I think there's something more to explore there. And yeah, kind of like starting that journey for yourself and just, like I said, knowing the basics of it, which is just like listening to or paying attention to when your kid is having feeling like they have to go to the potty, and then just giving them the opportunity to go. And that's really it. So the rest of it is for you to learn and to discover. It is a journey. It's not something that is one size fits all, like anything. It's something that needs to be you need to make it work for you. And it's all I can say is try it. Because I love it. I'm not still doing it because the girls are fully potty trained now, but oh my God, it's like from going through having a child that just always used diapers to using elimination communication. I'm like, why did we use diapers for like almost 3 years? It's crazy to me now. So definitely if you feel like it's calling you, follow that. Follow the call. Okay, last question. How many inches was your belly measuring during the last days of your twin pregnancy? I have no idea. I was having I don't know what to call it. I guess a regular pregnancy, whatever that means. Prior to, gosh, I guess it was like around 30 weeks when I decided to walk away from my obstetrician. So, I was having like all my measurements done and ultrasounds and all of the, the regular testing. Not so much regular. I declined a lot of stuff, but, in that sense, I was getting measured and weighed and everything, up until that point. So in the final days of my pregnancy, I actually wasn't measuring myself at all. I guess I could have been doing that at home, but I really wanted to detach myself from numbers and measurements and things that would take me out of just my body and how I was feeling. And I just find that like numbers were kind of just like a scale that for me would take me away and out of my just beingness, I guess. So yeah, I have no idea what I was measuring at the end. I imagine that it was really big. I don't know how many, inches that would be. But I can tell you that it felt really big and it was very heavy and I had a hard time doing just about anything in the end. And it was amazing. And I definitely am grateful that I allowed myself to go really inwards and enter my center, rather than having these sort of external systems that were telling me what my size was, what my weight was, all of these things that were kind of outside of myself. I just wanted to keep it like in the center of my knowing and my being, and not find out these things that might have put me into more of a fear state. And that was what worked for me. So yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry, I can't answer that one. Okay, so thank you so much for asking these beautiful questions. I'm always excited to find out and hear like what you want to know. If you want to know more, you can always DM me and ask me and I can answer it on here. And I love answering all of these questions. It's so much fun for me to think about, and I'm always down to do that. So I'll probably continue doing more of these questionnaires on my Instagram. Thank you so much for asking all of these questions. It's so much fun for me to come on and answer them, and I'll probably do more of these questionnaires. I really love doing them. So yeah, just always DM me, or I might do another one soon where I ask if there's any questions that you want me to answer on here. And yeah, I hope you're having a beautiful day today and a beautiful start to the almost summer season. And I'm sending so much love to you on your journey wherever you're at. And thank you so much for listening and watching. Ciao for now.